After my C-section, I begged, "Can someone please hold the baby so I can rest?" Hours passed. Nothing. The next morning, my mom posted, "The best family vacation 6 weeks later. Still weak and bleeding, my phone exploded. 88 missed calls and a message from sister. We need $5,000 now." I looked down at my son and texted back. I didn't expect the C-section. I thought I'd push him out like everyone else I knew. But after 17 hours of back-to-back contractions and no dilation, the doctor came in with that calm voice that makes you feel worse somehow and said we had to go to surgery. I didn't argue. I was too exhausted to lift my head. The ore was bright and cold, and everything felt surreal. I remember my arms being strapped down and this pressure like someone standing on my chest. Then I heard a cry. My son's first sound in the world, and I couldn't even move to see him. They brought him to my face for a second, then whisked him away as they stitched me up. When I woke up in the recovery room, everything felt heavy. My arms, my legs, my head. The nurse placed him gently on my chest and said something cheerful I didn't catch. I couldn't focus. I whispered, "Can someone hold him for me just for a little while? I need to sleep." She looked around and said, "I'll go check if your family's here." But I already knew they weren't. Brandon was there, my ex. We'd broken up 3 months ago after everything between us broke down. The stress, the fighting, the distance. But somehow, he was the only person in the room with me. He held the baby while I drifted in and out, changed the diapers, watched the monitors like a hawk. I didn't have the strength to talk much, but I remember thinking I never expected it to be him. The next morning, after a night of nurses adjusting IVs and me trying to sit up on my own, I opened my phone. No text from my mom, no missed calls, nothing from my sister either. I checked Facebook, just out of habit. And there was a full family photo. My mom, my sister, and my stepdad on the beach. Matching outfits, sunglasses, drinks in hand. The best family vacation. Posted at 10:03 p.m., the night I was cut open and brought a new life into this world. They knew the date. They knew the hospital. They knew I'd asked them to come, and they left. I didn't cry. I think I was too empty to cry by then. Just stared at the photo until the screen dimmed. Brandon came back into the room with coffee. He sat down, held the baby, and told me to go back to sleep. He never said anything about the photo. I never mentioned it either. The nurses eventually asked me when I'd be discharged and if I had someone to help at home. I said yes. I didn't tell them the truth. That my mother hadn't even called, that my sister didn't even check in. And then 6 weeks passed. I was still weak, still bleeding, barely sleeping, working part-time from home because clients didn't care that I had a newborn and stitches that still hurt. That morning, I left my phone on the table for an hour. When I picked it up, I saw 88 missed calls. Most were from my mom, some from my sister, a few from numbers I didn't recognize. At the top was a message from my sister. "We need $5,000 now. Please." No context, no explanation, just that. I looked at my son asleep on my chest. Then I texted back, "I'll see what I can do." Even then, I still thought maybe they'd just forgotten, that maybe I was overreacting. But that message, that was the beginning of everything shifting. Because a week later, I didn't just say no. I started planning. I didn't reply right away. The message just sat there on my phone like something sour I couldn't quite swallow. "We need $5,000 now, please." No explanation, no greeting, just the usual demand coded with just enough urgency to make it sound like an emergency. But they always did this, always framed it like I was the family's safety net, not because they respected me, but because I was useful. It's not like I hadn't paid before. I paid for my sister's rent once when she got behind, covered my mom's dental bill, bought my stepdad a new phone after he dropped his in a lake on a fishing trip. I even helped my mom refinance her car loan when she was drowning in payments. No one ever asked how I was affording all this while pregnant and working full-time. They just assumed I'd figure it out. But that morning, my son was asleep on my chest, wrapped like a burrito in the only onesie that didn't smell like sour milk. I was running on maybe an hour of broken sleep. My incision was still sore. I hadn't showered. And when I saw that message, something in me just clicked off. I texted back, "I can't help right now. Maybe in a week or two. Things are tight." That was a lie. I had the money, but I'd bled too much, given too much, and they'd taken too much without ever giving anything back. Brandon was in the kitchen washing bottles when I said it out loud. Just one sentence. They want $5,000. He didn't look surprised, just said, "Of course they do." He hadn't left since the hospital. No drama, no announcement, just stayed. He'd grab groceries, put the baby to sleep, fold the laundry that had been piling up for weeks. We didn't talk about what we were. Maybe we were still broken, but he was there. I'd half expected him to come for a day or two and then go back to his old apartment. But he kept showing up, cooking, helping, being quiet in the way that people are when they're trying to earn back trust without saying it. Meanwhile, the texts from my family kept coming. "How's the baby? Any chance you can send it today? Your sister's freaking out." We wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. They wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. That line made me laugh. They'd ask me for help when it was over dumb things. Spa deposits, concert tickets, credit card debt, from buying stuff they didn't need. This wasn't new. They just never had the audacity to ask 6 weeks after abandoning me in a hospital. That week, I stayed quiet, focused on the baby, on healing, on figuring out a rhythm with Brandon in the house. He was better with the baby than I thought he'd be. Not perfect, but present. He woke up when I couldn't. He paced the hall with the baby when he cried for no reason. He looked at me differently now, like he actually saw me and me. I started doing something I hadn't done in years. I let my phone ring and didn't answer until the text changed tone. My mom started sending longer messages. I feel like we've grown apart. It wasn't our intention to miss the birth. We thought you had Brandon. We were going through a lot, and we didn't want to bring that stress into the hospital. And then, we love you. Things just got complicated. No apology, no, I'm sorry I wasn't there. Just a vague explanation about how they didn't want to intrude. Funny how they didn't want to intrude at the birth of their grandson, but had no problem blowing up my phone when money was involved. I told Brandon I was going to start saying no, actually saying it. Not just delaying, not dodging, saying it like I meant it. He said finally. That same night, I opened my phone, scrolled through my sister's messages, and blocked her. The "little you've blocked this contact" message popped up, and I just stared at it. It didn't feel petty. It felt necessary. The next morning, I transferred all my family group chats into an archive folder and muted them. I didn't delete them. Not yet, just moved them far enough out of reach that they couldn't haunt me every time I picked up my phone. Then I opened my laptop. I started looking over my finances, making a list of all the extra monthly expenses I was still covering for them without even thinking. Subscriptions in my name, cell phone lines, a car insurance payment I hadn't realized was still coming out of my account. I started writing them down, one by one, because the week of silence was over and the revenge wasn't going to be loud. It was going to be methodical. It started small. I canceled the Netflix account that was still linked to my mom's living room TV, then the Hulu, then Spotify. One by one, I didn't say anything. No announcement, no warning, just gone. 2 days later, my sister texted me from a new number. "Hey, did the Netflix get hacked or something? It logged us out." I stared at it for a moment, then blocked that number too. He tried again from a different one. "Come on, just let me know if I need to reset the password. We're trying to watch something." I didn't reply. Then came the call from my mom. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "Hey, sweetheart, just checking in. Your sister's been really upset, and your stepdad says the insurance bounced. Did your card expire? Let me know. Okay. Love you." The fake sweetness grated on me more than the silence had. I didn't return the call. Brandon was the one who noticed it first. "You're quieter now," he said. I just nodded because something was shifting. It wasn't just that I was cutting them off. It was that I was finally starting to understand the role they boxed me into my whole life. The responsible one, the fixer, the wallet, and the worst part, they didn't even pretend to love me the way they did my sister. Even as kids, my sister was the center of everything. She failed a test. My mom blamed the teacher. I got straight A's. Well, that's expected from you. She threw a tantrum in public. She was just spirited. I voiced a boundary. I was too cold. When I got pregnant, my mom cried for hours. Not out of joy, but because this could ruin your career. But when my sister flunked out of college for the second time, they flew her to Miami for a reset weekend. I was done. Brandon saw the list on my laptop one night, a spreadsheet with everything: payments, login, names. He just said, "Need help?" I handed him the laptop. We started canceling things together. By the end of the week, their cable was disconnected. Their car insurance was switched off. The extra line on my phone plan gone. And that's when the panic started. My mom left voicemails that weren't sweet anymore. "Barbara, what the hell is going on? Your stepdad just got pulled over and found out the insurance was canceled. Are you serious right now?" My sister from yet another number. "This is next level petty. Grow up. You know we need this stuff. It's not even about the money. It's about family." I laughed out loud at that one. Family. Not a single one of them was at the hospital when I gave birth. Not a single call that day. They were on a beach while I was vomiting from anesthesia and holding my baby alone. Family didn't forget the biggest moment of your life just because they needed a break. Brandon came home with groceries one night, saw me deleting another voicemail, and said, "You know, you don't have to listen to any of that anymore, right?" I nodded, but I did listen to some of them, not because I cared what they said, but because I wanted to remember how easy it was for them to turn on me when I stopped being useful. A week later, my mom showed up unannounced, knocked on the door like nothing was wrong, holding some cheap stuffed animal like it could patch everything. Brandon answered. She tried to push past him. He didn't let her. She asked if I was home. He said yes, but that I didn't want to see her. He called through the door. "Barbara, stop being dramatic. We just needed help. We've always been there for you." Brandon turned and looked at me, waiting. I said nothing, and eventually she left. That night, Brandon sat on the edge of the bed, rocking our son to sleep. He said, "You know, this could be your life. Just us. No more of their noise." And for the first time in months, I actually let myself believe it. 3 days after my mom showed up at my door like nothing happened, I got a certified letter in the mail. At first, I thought maybe it was some legal notice, maybe something from the hospital or insurance. I opened it, standing over the sink while the baby screamed in the background and Brandon bounced him in the living room. Inside was a typed document, 2 pages, double-spaced, itemized. At the top, it said, "What we've done for you over the years." Oh, I'm not joking. She had listed everything. Rent from when I lived at home after college. Groceries I ate while living there. A prom dress from 2009. $80 from a camping trip I didn't even remember going on. All of it tallied up to $18,620.34. He even used cents. Taped to the back was a handwritten note. "Barbara, this isn't an attack. It's just to remind you that family is about give and take. We helped you. Now we need help. It's time to give back." I just stood there holding it, stunned. I had just carried a human out of my body. I had healed alone. I had paid for their bills without keeping score, and they had the nerve to send me an invoice. I brought the letter into the living room, handed it to Brandon without saying anything. He read it, folded it back up, and said, "So, they're billing you for existing now?" I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't. I felt nauseous. It wasn't about the money, it was what it meant. They saw me as an account, a transaction, a person they could guilt and manipulate until I folded. Brandon put the letter down and said, "So what now?" I didn't answer. Not then. Instead, I posted something to Facebook. First time in months. It was a photo, me and the baby. I was in pajamas. No makeup, hair unwashed. Brandon was in the background holding a bottle. No perfect poses, just real life. The caption was short. No visitors, no help, no support, just us. And we're finally okay. I didn't name names, didn't tag anyone, but people knew. The comments started rolling in. Old classmates, friends from work, even my old boss. Proud of you. This is what strength looks like. So glad you're surrounded by love now. But my cousin Sarah messaged me privately. "Barbara, just so you know, your mom's freaking out. She's calling people saying, 'You're unstable,' that Brandon took over your life. She's saying, 'You're keeping the baby away from the family out of spite.'" That's when something inside me snapped clean in half. I sent Sarah a voice message. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just explained that they weren't there when I needed them most, that they were drinking cocktails and matching t-shirts while I was getting cut open in an operating room, that they only remembered I existed when they needed thousands of dollars, that they thought of me not as a daughter, not even as a sister, but as a wallet. Sarah's reply came 5 minutes later. I believe you. I've seen how they treat you. You're not crazy. You're just done playing the part they gave you. And that night, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife a little further, something unexpected happened. Brandon proposed, but not with a ring, not with a speech, not with flowers. We were sitting on the couch. It was 9:30 p.m. The baby had finally gone down after screaming for an hour. I was drinking cold tea I'd reheated 3 times. I was in an old t-shirt with spit up on the collar. He looked over and said, "Let's do this. Let's raise him together. Really do it. Not out of guilt because we're already doing it, and because I don't want to leave." I didn't cry. I didn't overthink. I just said yes because he had shown up when no one else did. The next morning, I drafted a response to my mom's invoice. It took me 10 minutes. I sent her a check for $18,620.34 along with a note. Paid. Now, don't ask me for another thing. And for the first time since I'd given birth, I exhaled. But I knew them. I knew this wasn't the end. They'd come back louder, angrier, more desperate, and I was ready for it. The check cleared within 2 days. I watched it disappear from my account like I was paying off a credit card, not my own mother. Brandon asked me if I regretted sending it. I said no because I knew what would come next, and I wanted it to come, and I didn't have to wait long. 3 days later, my mom called me from a blocked number. I answered out of curiosity, not kindness. She didn't say hello. She said, "So that's it. You're cutting us off now after everything." I didn't respond. She went on and said I was being brainwashed by Brandon, said he was turning me against my own family, said I was emotionally blackmailing them by keeping the baby away. I hung up. A few hours later, my sister called Brandon. I didn't even know she had his number. He let it go to voicemail, then played it on speaker while we sat at the table feeding the baby. "Tell Barbara this is pathetic. She's burning bridges. And for what? You think she's going to raise that kid without us? You're not even married. You think this is a real family?" Brandon didn't even flinch. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. But the message stuck with me. Not because it hurt, but because it was exactly what they believed. That nothing in my life was real unless it included them. That Brandon wasn't a real father. That I wasn't a real mother without their approval. I started documenting everything. Screenshots, voicemails, messages, every fake apology followed by another demand, every passive-aggressive post from my mom's account. I kept it all, and then I started responding not to them, but to life. I called my phone carrier and removed the extra lines, called the insurance company and gave them new payment info just for me, changed passwords, closed joint accounts. Anything with my name attached to theirs gone. They tried to shame me publicly. My mom posted a long, vague rant on Facebook a week later. It's sad when people you raise turn their back on you, especially when they forget who fed them, clothed them, and picked them up when no one else would. Got a dozen likes, 1 heart emoji from my aunt. My sister commented exactly. I didn't say a word, but people noticed. Friends messaged me. "Are you okay? Do you want me to report the post?" I said, "No, let them have their little spotlight. Let them scream into the void." Because behind the scenes, everything was falling into place. Brandon had started freelancing again. We were taking turns with the baby and starting to feel like a team. We were exhausted, broke, and figuring it out day by day. But it was ours, all of it. The mess, the love, the silence after a 3 a.m. feeding. One night, I walked past the nursery and saw him asleep on the floor next to the crib, one hand on our son's leg, like he was grounding him to the earth. I stood there and realized I hadn't thought of him as my ex in weeks. He was just Brandon now, ours. I got one final voicemail from my mother after that. Her voice was cold and slow. "This is your last chance. We're family, and if you think you can erase us from your life without consequences, you're wrong." I didn't answer. I didn't save it. I deleted it and blocked her number. And for the first time since the day I gave birth, my phone was silent, peaceful, like the storm had finally passed. Strange how quiet life gets when you stop letting the wrong people into it. There was no big fight, no screaming match, no final confrontation in a driveway, just silence. After months of drama, manipulation, and guilt, I blocked the last number, archived the last email, and closed the last financial tie. And the world didn't end. In fact, it got better. I started waking up without checking my phone in dread. No missed calls, no passive-aggressive texts, no new emergencies that somehow only I could fix. Brandon and I fell into a rhythm. It wasn't perfect. We still argued sometimes. The baby still had nights where he wouldn't sleep unless one of us stood bouncing him for an hour. But we were figuring it out together. He hadn't moved out, and I hadn't asked him to. Somewhere along the way, that question just stopped being a question. He was home now. He started leaving little notes in the kitchen, reminders for bottle times, or you got this scribbled on the corner of a grocery list. He wasn't trying to fix me. He was just there, and after everything I'd been through, that was everything. One afternoon, while the baby was napping and we were finally sitting down with actual hot coffee, I asked him if he remembered that fight we had 3 months before the birth when he walked out and we thought that was it. He nodded. I said, "Why'd you come back?" He thought for a second and said, "Because I realized I didn't want to miss anything. Not the good, not the hard, and because you were the strongest person I'd ever met, and I was tired of pretending that didn't matter." And that was it. I never spoke to my family again. Not after the Facebook post, not after the threats, not after they tried to show up to our apartment again and found the building had updated its entry codes. They faded out slowly, like background noise you don't realize is gone, until you notice the silence. And strangely, no one begged me to fix things anymore. Once the money stopped, once the power shifted, the urgency vanished. My sister moved on to her next crisis. My mom found someone else to guilt. I heard bits and pieces from cousins, how my name came up less and less, how the story changed until they pretended they didn't even know what had happened. But I did. I knew exactly what happened. I became a mother. I stopped asking for permission to live my life. I chose the man who showed up, not the people who vanished. I built a home out of pieces they tried to convince me were worthless, and I never sent another dollar. Sometimes I think about that hospital room, about whispering, "Can someone hold the baby so I can rest?" And hearing nothing, no one coming, no one caring, except Brandon. And now every night as I put our son to bed, I walk past Brandon brushing his teeth or cleaning up the kitchen or lying on the floor making the baby laugh. And I think they were wrong. This is a real family, maybe not the one I was born into, but the one I chose, and it's enough. It's more than enough. Everything.